Manyalo, the fastest man in Africa, and you're watching Side Chat with Nasho. Please subscribe and keep following.
Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Side Chat with Nation. Today is quite an interesting day because we'll be talking matters sports development. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Drop a like down below. Let us know what type of conversations you'd like to have on this particular platform. A topic that we never quite run away a lot on Side Chat with Nation is the issue of football. In one way or another, we always have to find a way to talk about football. One of the key things that usually ails football, both mainly in Africa and locally, is the fact that we do not have elaborate structures to help us develop our sports locally. As a result of that, we see a lot of children or a lot of talented young players go to waste. Now, joining me on the panel today to talk about matters sports development and involvement and the importance of academies in talent development is Lee Hayes, who's the former development coach at Queen's Park Rangers. Also joining me on set today is Christopher Mondi. Christopher Mondi is the founder and one of the people running the Dreams Alive Foundation over here in Kenya. Guys, welcome to the discussion today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe we can start with you, Lee. Maybe you can talk to us about your former engagement with Queen's Park Rangers. You can talk to us about what you're doing at the academy and how that particular dimension has changed at the moment.
Okay, yeah. So, how are we doing, everyone? Pleasure to be here. Yeah. So my name's Lee Hayes, and I was an ex QPR coach. So my role was under 12s to under 16s. So I would literally develop coaches, oversee coaches in terms of session plans and just managing them with their age groups. And then also I took a under 16s team, so kind of helping them through a stage of trying to get a scholarship for a full-time program at Queen's Park Rangers, and then hopefully get into the first team further down the line. So in terms of academies, so I've had a range of experiences of coaching at Brentford and Tottenham. So I've got a kind of a good understanding of developing players and how the academy structure is here in England.
Okay. Maybe one of the key things that over here in Kenya we struggle with is the fact that there are some parents who still lay a lot of emphasis on education as opposed to talent development. How are you able to navigate this particular topic? Because in as much as a kid is talented, at the end of the day, the parents have a say in terms of which direction they are going to take, either professionally or academically.
Well, in academy football in England, especially at QPR, so they focus a lot on talent. So, for example, we've got QPR's got like a talented recruitment. So you have a talented person where they have different scouts to go off and target different kids, and that will kind of focus on individual development. So we've got a philosophy, and if a player kind of fits that mold of philosophy, so for example, at Queen's Park Rangers, they focus a lot on 1v1s. Is a player comfortable in possession? Does he show them wow moments, like dropping the shoulder, different types of skills, and has he got the resilience to keep going when things are going wrong? So they have a department there to kind of target players from under 9s all the way up to under 16s, and you have various players that will come in at different times. You might get under 9s come in, and he might stay all the way up to under 13s, and then unfortunately he's not at that level at that time. Then he might get released, or you might get a kid that comes in at under 12s and go all the way to the first team. It just varies in terms of players and development. But in terms of linking it with the education, we'll focus a lot on education. Plus, if players are coming in and they're 16, 17, 18, they'll do like a scholarship where they'll study for 2 years and play at Queen's Park Rangers. So again, they do focus a lot on education, but having the difference is, like any parent, it is a challenge. You want your child to go down the football route, but also you have to have an A plan and a B plan just in case. Making it as a professional, because we all know that making it as a professional player is 0.5%. So you have to have different, you have to have education to fall back on. In terms of, that's my opinion. As a parent, you have to have a B plan. If the football doesn't happen, can I focus on education and football? It is difficult, but I think, especially here, is that we got a schooling system where you go to school and also you develop playing football as well at different academies. But that's how the academy structure is. Plus 16, when you sign a scholarship, you do education. Below 16, you just go to a normal school and you kind of have to manage that between academy football and school.
Okay. One key thing that maybe I'd like to understand, I'm so interested in the education and sports part, because sometimes you find there is a difference. There are people who emphasize one against the other. How important is education to a player? How do you think that shapes them in terms of discipline, mentality? How have you seen the difference when you emphasize education alongside talent development?
I think it's very important. No matter what country you're in, you want players to be intelligent. How do you create intelligence and being intelligent? You have to educate the players. You have to give them, individual clips of the games. You got to get them to study the games. You got to make sure that the player that you're developing, does he understand about different tactics when he got reached plus 16? Does he understand about his own development? So yes, we want intelligent players, but I think education for me, and for some academies, education is key. Education is so important. You want to create good players, but you want to create education players where they know how to learn. They know when they make mistakes. Do they get their head down, or do they have they got the resilience to keep going? But in terms of looking at it from like an educational side, it's difficult to kind of some players might just focus on football and lose the education side in terms of studying and stuff like that. And sometimes you have to make a decision. Am I going to be a professional footballer, or do I want to go to university, or do I want to further my education? So in terms of that, it is difficult. But I think if you mirror the both of them at the same time, I think you've got a kind of a win-win situation.
Okay. Maybe as we wrap up that question on the academy, how important are academies in terms of churning out talent? I know in England we've seen a lot of young players coming to the limelight, playing for their youth teams before they're promoted. Talk about the Rashfords of the English Premier League, alongside other Marcus Rashford, Elanga, such young players. How important are academies to providing talent to bigger leagues in the world?
I think academies are important. Each academy has their own philosophy. So when you go into an academy, I think the structure of having, like, literally, imagine you're a player in the structure of having academy where you got full-time staff developing the players. You might have different academies have different status. So if you have a category Cat 1 academy, they'll have more money, but also they'll have better facilities, more coaching staff, more staff in terms of developing the player. Where Cat 2 academy will have less staff, less money pumped into it, but again, it still produced the same goal of developing players. And within that, you have your own philosophy. So their playing style. Are the academy where they like to keep possession? They're kind of a football based team, or are the academy when they're more direct and they're looking for different types of players, like the strong players, quick players, or skillful players. So there's different academies in England focus on different things, but then they're going to achieve the same goal. Does that make sense? And it's about developing. The main aim of academies is kind of developing players to be ready to play for the first team. And if that's not the case, what's the section option is if they're not ready for the first team, where else can you put that player? Can you put them in the championship? Can you get them to play abroad? Or the last option would be, okay, if that player doesn't go on and make it, does he go into university? Does he further their education? So in terms of academies, I think it's very important having a structure where players can develop and they feel comfortable with that environment. Now, for me, in terms of my 8 years being at Queen's Park Rangers and also, say, 12 years, my experience of academy football is you have to have kind of, for me, there's three things, like creating an environment, where players are very comfortable to be able to develop. In terms of create an environment where it's challenging, create an environment where there's a lot of learning going on, and create an environment where everyone's having fun but also developing as individuals or as a team. And then from that is developing staff. So for example, if you have an academy where your coaches are good, but also they have that environment of they want to get better. Because we can all sit here today and say we've got the best academy, but however, have you got the best staff? You need staff to develop the next Messi, the next Ronaldo. So it's all about developing the staff, having a clear philosophy of how you want to play, and then also creating that environment.
Okay. I think at this point I'll bring in Chris. Chris, one key thing that we really struggle with here in Kenya and in Africa is player representation. Maybe from having worked in the sports scene in Kenya, how do you think this particular issue can be tackled?
I think, thank you, Nation. I think player representation reflects from the system. Like you see, you have talked about Natural and the programs in the UK. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You're breaking up.
Okay, let me start again. I think player representation is directly related to the nurturing. Like you find in the UK, there are a lot of structures put in place. So before a kid is ready, agents will be running around for his signature. Am I clear?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. It's okay. It's okay. Continue. Just proceed. Just proceed. I can hear you.
Oh, okay. So players are getting prepared. Players are getting ready. There's a list of there's a database for players. There are scouts. It's like I think that as a match that has been worked on for a lot of years. So when a kid is playing in the under-16, clubs are scouting him, and while clubs are doing so, the agents are also looking for their next big product. So it's an all-round thing. In Kenya, we don't have a lot of structures. We have a few agents in Kenya, but you see, in Kenya, they are looking for someone who's ready. But you find the difference in the UK, a kid is spotted very early. I was talking the other day. I was talking to you. I was telling you in Netherlands. I read an article of a kid who I started scouting at 5 years. so it tells you the difference. Yeah, there's the tracking. There's a track. They track you. As Lee said, that times when a kid reaches the under 16 and they're not ready for that stage, they're dropped.
Okay.
You hear me? Yeah. So I think our what outdoes them from us is the fact that in the UK they have structures, and it's not like rocket science. It's something that they tried and it worked. They have the philosophy too that if you want to scout a kid, there's a 7-day approach. You have to contact the club and request for the same in 7 days. Everyone in the system has to be knowing that you're coming to scout a kid. So it's actually in readiness for the whole thing. There are rules, there are regulations, there are people who are trained to do the same. Like he talked about the staff. In Kenya, we don't have enough training. That's why at some point we were even planning with Lee to just come and and teach coaches in the village how to plan a session. Just the basic. Yeah.
Okay. Lee, it goes without saying that the English Premier League is one of the biggest leagues in the world, and I think from where I'm sitting or where I am, one of the things that has made that probably successful is a little bit of the right involvement with the government. Maybe you can just tell us how that symbiotic relationship has been created, because over here in Kenya we are struggling with the fact that once the government gets involved, like right now, all football activities have been banned by FIFA in the country because of government interference late last year. Maybe you can talk to us about how that symbiotic relationship is between the English Premier League and the government.
Like I said, I'm not a politician, but I'll try my best to answer the question. Yeah, so I think in terms of, sorry to hear that about the ban. I'm really sorry to hear about the ban. That's very disappointing. I think with England, the government don't really get involved in terms of the structure and kind of making decisions. I think during COVID, that's where I think they had a lot of involvement due to closing the Premier League down and closing certain situations. I think what it is the Premier League is a very big business, so it's all about making money. But at the same time, I don't think the government get too involved. I think once a club has got their academy, and the academy, is a way to kind of. So, for example, if you get a player from the academy and you've developed him since under 16s or under 9s all the way up to the first team, you actually, that's a product. That player is a product to go and play in the Premier League or play in the Championship. So I feel that the government doesn't really get too involved in what the academies are doing. They have their own structure and stuff like that. Again, the government's got their own goals and what they want to achieve. But as you can see, our Prime Minister's left the boat at the moment. So we're kind of in a situation where, who's going to come in, they might change certain rules and regulations. But, I think looking at it is the academies kind of do their own thing. They need to make money from developing players. They want to produce the next Messi, next Ronaldo. And I think if you look at it in the last 10, 15 years, there's a lot of players coming from England. And now from around the world, everyone's looking at English players. Oh, you know what? We can actually play. We are skillful players. We are intelligent players. I think now you get a lot of young players going abroad, which 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you'd never see that. You have Sancho, who went to Germany at a young age. You have a lot of players going out abroad and making a career out of themselves. But in terms of answering your question, in terms of the government, I think they just kind of let us do what we want to do. They might come in and set different rules and regulations, but there's no issue in terms of if you've got an academy, you want to develop players and we want to create players for the first team. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. Maybe as we wrap up this discussion, I'd like to get a bit of insights from you in terms of player representation, because that's a key thing that here we've not really mastered. Because sometimes you hear a player has gotten a really good deal. One thing, I think one of the good things that I like about the English Premier League is if a player transfers to another team, then they're able to tell us the transfer is this much, this is the amount of money that is going to be paid to the team. But over here in Kenya, we seem to be struggling a lot with that. Maybe how do you think we can borrow a few lessons from there in terms of creating transparency and ensuring that players are getting their money's worth for their time?
Like again, that's I'm not involved in kind of agencies and stuff like that, but I think what is key is that from the age of 16 a player is allowed to sign with an agent from the academy. Now I think it's important that I think my personal opinion, when I was younger I had an agent as well, and I think they help you in terms of stuff outside the pitch. You're looking at sponsor deals, you're looking at boot deals, you're looking at how to extra training sessions, agencies will probably put in place. It's just managing the player. So people talk very negative about agents, and and it's probably the same in Kenya. I'm not too sure, but I think for me, growing up and having an agent, it gave me that support, that structure, and that help. So, for example, if you're not at a football club and you get released, who's going to help you? I think agents are key. Again, big transfer fees of different players, and that's going to happen. That's a business, isn't it? So an agency or an agent, they're trying to do their work in terms of developing the product. At the end of the day, that's their product. Can they move the player if the player's not happy? So if you look at England, I think so plus 16, a player is allowed to sign with an agency or an agent. And then in terms of having that structure in place is, like I said, boot deals. Can they create that sponsorship side of the business? Educating players, with their money. So you might have some players that are really young and they got loads of money because of where they are in the system, playing for the Arsenal and Chelsea now. Can the agency set something up where they're managing their money? Can they invest in property? Can they invest in something? So if they have a short career or, they finish football, what have they got next to go into? The Premier League, some players make a lot of money, some players make okay money, and some players will probably, not in the Premier League, but other different divisions might struggle to kind of get by. But, having a player, having an agent, they can kind of support you with that process. Some agents don't do it, some agents do it. But I think in terms of having someone to represent you, for me, I think is key.
Okay. Maybe as we wrap up, you've left QPR. I know we've talked about this off camera. What next for Lee Hayes after leaving QPR?
Okay, so I've been there for 8 seasons. I left in October. I just wanted a kind of a different challenge. I just wanted to reset my button in terms of coming out of academy football. What can I do? I'm a very ambitious coach, so I've spoken. I've had guest speakers in Denmark. I spoke in Sweden, and I spoke to Chris about certain things as well. But for me, I like to travel abroad one day. Coaching abroad I think is very good in terms of challenging you. I like to experience different cultures. So I spent time in Brazil playing for 6 months, playing professionally. So I can speak a little bit of Portuguese. So I'm just right now trying to find myself in terms of developing as a coach. So for example, at the moment I'm working with players that are not in academy football and trying to get back into the system, having education and football alongside each other. So getting players to focus on their education, but also can we get these players into academy football? And the charity that I'm with at the moment, we've got probably about 55 players signed in the last, I think, 6 years. So we are doing something right as well. So yeah, the organisation that I'm working with is called Connect Foundation. So that's the product organisation I'm working for at the moment. But for me moving forward, I just want to be the best coach I can be, learn off of others. But I think I'm at the stage now where if a chance come to move abroad, I'll probably take it. I don't know if I told you, Chris, but I did get an offer to work in Ghana. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. But moving forward, I do want to kind of challenge myself and be at the comfort zone, if that makes sense.
Okay. This last question I'm going to be putting Chris in the spotlight. Chris, so when is Lee coming to Kenya?
that's an off-camera discussion, but we are planning. We've been planning for a while. There are a lot of things, as I told you earlier. There are a lot of things that we need to instill in our youth, especially. I won't talk about coaches. I'll just talk about the youth, because the youth they're in a transition level, and once you don't get the basic coaching skills at your youth, it becomes hard to initiate a session, even when you become older. So we are trying our best to get the best we can, and Lee is one of them. Even if possible, we could get him a team to Kenya. That would be good. But that's just after. I told him Kenya for now is a no. I don't know how to misadvise my friends. Yeah, let us put the house in order first. Then you'll see Lee Hayes in one of the Premier League teams around. That I promise you. You'll see him around. Yeah, he wants to come. He wants to develop, but it has to be at the right time. It has to be at the right cost. It's not like a charity we are running here. It's called win-win for both parties. Win, he has to win too. Yeah, so he was actually interested at some point to come to Kenya and do one of his abroad destinations was Kenya. But I provided the right advisors, and
definitely in the future we'll definitely do something, Chris.
Yeah, we will. Especially with the foundation, especially with the Dreams Alive Foundation. We've been planning stuff. It's just a matter of time before you see us maybe do a coaching clinic, and even some soccer camps around. Yeah, so maybe after the elections, when things have calmed down, we will approach a few people and make this happen.
Okay.